Hey everyone! Today we're exploring another chilling and disturbing case. If you'd like to support the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stay engaged. It really means a lot. I truly appreciate it. Now, take a deep breath and let's dive in. Amber and Ashley Carson were born minutes apart. Two halves of the same soul. They finished each other's sentences, knew each other's thoughts, and promised they'd grow old side by side. It was always going to be us, Amber once said. Just me and her forever. But forever didn't come, because one sister fell in love, and the other couldn't let her have him. By the end of it, one twin was dead. The other stood accused of murder, and the man caught between them, he was a pastor, a liar, and maybe something even worse. Amber and Ashley Carson were more than just sisters. They were twins, best friends, mirror images. For 26 years, their lives were in sync, matching clothes, inside jokes, and dreams of growing old side by side. But all of that changed the moment they met Brandon Keller, a charming, married youth pastor with a Bible in one hand and secrets in the other. By the end of it, one sister was dead, and the other was hiding a secret no one could believe. On the night of September 8, 2019, police were called to a quiet apartment complex in Athens, Georgia. A neighbor reported loud arguing, followed by silence, then the sound of rushing water. Inside, they found Amber Carson, fully clothed, lying face down in a bloodless bathtub. No signs of forced entry, no weapons, just faint bruising on her neck, and one terrifying detail: her phone wiped clean. Amber was pronounced dead at the scene. Initial theory? Suicide. But something didn't sit right, because just hours before she died, Amber had texted her twin sister, "You win. You always do. I hope he was worth it." Detectives turned their attention to the last people Amber spoke to. At the top of the list, her twin sister Ashley and Brandon Keller, the youth pastor she'd been secretly dating. Only, Amber wasn't the only Carson sister Brandon had been sleeping with. Ashley Carson admitted to having a spiritual relationship with Brandon, one she claimed never crossed a line. But phone records told a different story. Brandon had been sending both sisters intimate messages, often on the same day, sometimes using fake names. It wasn't just a love triangle, it was a psychological war. And Brandon? He was living a double life. Despite his marriage, his sermons, his image, he had taken out a life insurance policy on Amber Carson just 6 months earlier. The beneficiary? Himself. As investigators dug deeper, something disturbing surfaced. A doorbell camera belonging to a neighbor 2 doors down. The timestamp? 9:47 p.m. Footage showed Ashley Carson entering Amber's apartment. She never came out. When police confronted her, Ashley claimed she left through the back. But there was one problem. The back exit was under renovation, completely sealed off. That was the moment the case turned. Ashley Carson was arrested for the murder of her twin sister. But was it that simple? As Ashley sat behind bars awaiting trial, more disturbing details came to light. Amber had been keeping a secret journal, pages filled with paranoia, heartbreak, and accusations. One entry read, "Brandon and Ashley think I don't know what they're planning. But if I end up dead, don't believe a word they say." But then, just days before the trial, a new witness came forward. Someone who claimed Amber wasn't the victim people thought she was, and that Ashley might not have been the only one with a motive to kill. So what really happened that night? Was it a crime of passion or something far darker? And what if the wrong twin went to prison? The trial of Ashley Carson began in the summer of 2021. Prosecutors painted her as a jealous, vengeful sister, obsessed with a man who didn't love her back. They showed texts from Ashley to Brandon, calling Amber a manipulative slut and saying, "If she disappears, I bet you wouldn't even cry." But the defense had a different story. They said Ashley was set up, that her visit to Amber's apartment that night was an attempt at peace, and that the real killer might still be free. Then came Amber's journal. 94 pages, handwritten, frantic, obsessive. In one entry, she writes, "Brandon tells me Ashley is unstable, that she's been following us, but when I ask him to show proof, he goes silent." Another entry reads, I found a second phone under his car seat. There were pictures of us, of me sleeping. I don't feel safe anymore. Then, the game changer. A witness came forward, Rachel Monroe, a former church assistant, who testified that Brandon told her months before Amber's death that he wished both sisters would just disappear. She claimed Brandon had confided in her that one of them was threatening to expose everything, and that if the truth came out, he'd lose everything, his job, his wife, and his reputation. But it wasn't just words. There was something else. During discovery, the defense uncovered a voicemail, one that had been buried in the phone records. Amber had called Brandon just 27 minutes before she died. It went to voicemail, and what she said changed everything. She said, "I know what you and Ashley did. I'm not your puppet. If anything happens to me, just know I left copies. You're not getting away with this." Copies of what? Brandon denied knowing what she meant. Ashley looked stunned when the voicemail played in court. And then the trial took an even darker turn. 2 weeks into the trial, police received an anonymous tip. It led them to a storage unit rented under Amber's name, one nobody knew existed. Inside, a small lockbox. And inside that box, the hard drive, encrypted, hidden beneath letters from Brandon, and one chilling note taped to the lid. "If you're reading this, I'm already dead. But the truth is in here." Court was suspended. The defense and prosecution demanded a forensic review. The hard drive is being decrypted as we speak. But sources close to the investigation say it contains videos, documents, and something so disturbing it could unravel not just the case, but Brandon Keller's entire world. Because if what's on that drive is real, then Amber Carson may not have been the only victim. And Ashley, she may not be as innocent as she claims, but she might not be the killer either. It took forensic analysts 3 days to crack the password. The encryption code? Genesis 1:32, a reference to the Bible verse about deceit and betrayal. Inside the drive, investigators found 3 folders. For the police, Brandon's lies, the truth about Ashley. Each folder held hours of video, text messages, screenshots, and audio recordings Amber had secretly collected over the final 6 months of her life. And what she documented revealed a story far more twisted than anyone imagined. Amber had been tracking Brandon Keller, her lover, her pastor, for months. In the folder labeled Brandon's Lies, she compiled recordings of phone calls where Brandon admitted to faking divorce papers, screenshots of flirty messages Brandon sent other women in the church, sometimes on the same nights he stayed with Amber, evidence he'd also been counseling a 17-year-old church volunteer, and the language was explicit. But the most chilling item? A video recorded on Amber's laptop. She's sitting alone, speaking directly to the camera. "Brandon thinks I'm weak. He thinks I'm just some obsessed girl who let him do whatever he wants. But I know things. I know what happened in Savannah. I know about that girl in 2017. And I know Ashley's not just a victim in this." That's when the story turned darker. In the folder titled The Truth About Ashley, Amber detailed a side of her sister no one had seen. She wrote about childhood patterns of manipulation, Ashley's habit of turning friends and boyfriends against Amber. She described moments that, at the time, felt like sibling rivalry, but in hindsight, felt sinister. One entry said, "Ashley always wanted what I had. The toys, the clothes, the attention. She didn't care about Brandon until she found out he was mine." But then came a text message thread, one that had been deleted from both sisters' phones, but recovered through Amber's data backups. It showed Ashley and Brandon discussing getting Amber out of the picture, referring to her as a problem and a loose end. Ashley wrote, "You said you'd handle it. Just don't let it come back to me." Brandon replied, "She'll take the fall herself. She always breaks first." Was this proof of a conspiracy? Or the desperate words of 2 people scared their secrets would be exposed, just as the defense prepared to submit the hard drive into evidence? Police in Savannah, Georgia, reopened an unsolved case from 2017, the case of Naomi Ellis, a 22-year-old former youth group member found dead in her dorm room. No forced entry, apparent overdose. At the time, it was ruled a suicide, but Naomi had been seeing Brandon Keller. In her journal, Naomi wrote about a married pastor who said he'd leave his wife for me. The last text she ever sent, he said if I told anyone, he'd ruin me, but I don't care anymore. Her phone had been wiped clean, just like Amber's, and the night she died, Brandon's phone pinged near Naomi's dorm, 2 hours before she was found. Now, Brandon isn't just tied to one dead woman. He's tied to two. With new evidence, prosecutors are preparing to reopen Naomi's case and reconsider the charges against Ashley Carson. But just as the courtroom seemed ready to turn against Brandon Keller, police received a new tip. A third woman, a secret baby, and a DNA test that could prove everything Amber feared was true. Because the deeper we dig, the more we realize this wasn't just about love. It was about control. And Brandon Keller may have built his entire life on the bones of women who trusted him. 2 days after media outlets broke news of the reopened Naomi Ellis case, an anonymous tipster contacted Athens police. She claimed to have once been in a spiritual counseling relationship with Brandon Keller, and that she had a child who may be his. Her name? Danielle Rios, now 28, a former church intern at Brandon's previous ministry in Florida. Her story? Bone-chilling. Danielle told investigators that Brandon began mentoring her when she was 19. Within months, it turned sexual, but always under the pretense of God's plan. And when she told him she was pregnant, he told her to pray the weakness away. Then he disappeared. But now, she's stepping out of the shadows, and she brought DNA evidence with her. Brandon denied everything. He told police he barely remembered Danielle and insisted she was just another person trying to exploit the media attention. But the DNA results came back within 72 hours. And the match? 99.98% probability that Brandon Keller is the father of Danielle's 7-year-old son. Danielle's statement added a disturbing layer to the timeline. She claimed Brandon cut contact with her the very same week Naomi Ellis was found dead. Was it coincidence? Or was he cleaning up loose ends? Investigators now had 3 women, Amber, Naomi, and Danielle, all young, vulnerable, and spiritually groomed by Brandon Keller. Each believed they were in a private, God-blessed relationship. Each was told to keep quiet. And when they didn't, they either ended up dead or silenced. Danielle had one more bombshell. She claimed Brandon had asked her, during the height of their affair, if she knew how to make someone disappear without leaving a trace. It was brushed off at the time. But now, that comment is part of a sealed grand jury investigation. And still, there's more. After Danielle's story broke, the Keller family home was swarmed with media and protesters. Brandon went silent. But behind the scenes, a former church treasurer contacted police. She had worked with Brandon during his time at a small community church in Savannah, and she revealed something the public didn't know. There had been a fourth woman, a former worship singer named Layla Harmon, who left the church abruptly in 2016 after what was described as a personal crisis. Church records showed she'd been paid a $25,000 severance from the church's discretionary fund. Signed off personally by Brandon, the payout was kept quiet. No official reason. No tax documentation. And when police searched public records for Layla Harmon, they found no trace of her after 2016. No social media. No forwarding address. No missing person report. Just gone. Amber, Naomi, Danielle, now Layla. How many women were hurt, silenced, or worse? And why was Brandon Keller never stopped? When police began investigating Layla Harmon's name, they discovered she had abruptly left a worship team in October 2016. No resignation letter, no farewell, just one final payment. Processed to the church's crisis fund, approved by Brandon Keller himself. That payment? $25,000, signed and sealed under personal hardship. What was the hardship? And why did every member of the church leadership refuse to answer any questions about her? One deacon, off the record, told investigators, "We were told not to ask." Brandon said Layla was going through something dark and that she needed to be protected. Then she was just gone. In March 2025, following national tip line call, police tracked a possible address tied to Layla Harmon. It wasn't a home. It was a religious retreat, the House of Restoration, a secluded spiritual compound deep in the woods of rural Tennessee. No phone lines, no internet, and no contact with the outside world. The property was registered to a private foundation, the same foundation Brandon Keller's wife, Evelyn, had listed as her employer. When investigators arrived, they were denied entry, but what they saw from the gates chilled them. Women in long skirts, heads covered, flanked by male guards in plain clothes. One of those women matched Layla Harmon's age, height, and face, but she wouldn't speak. She just stared blankly until when the men pulled her away. What began as a case of jealousy and murder is now unraveling into something far more sinister. Brandon Keller had more than just affairs. He had control over vulnerable women, financially, spiritually, emotionally. Through fake counseling, secret funds, and manipulation masked as ministry, he isolated his victims, cutting them off from families, silencing their cries for help, and when they pushed back, they vanished, or they died. But now, investigators are digging deeper into the House of Restoration and uncovering how many women were sent there from Brandon's past churches. So far, 6 names, 3 of whom are still unaccounted for. Back in court, during a pivotal moment in Ashley Carson's trial, the defense dropped a bombshell. The anonymous tipster who told Amber the truth about Brandon was not Ashley, was not a friend, not a jilted lover. It was Evelyn Keller, Brandon's wife. She had discovered Brandon's second phone, read his messages to Amber and Ashley, and tracked down Danielle's child's birth certificate. And she didn't call the cops. She called Amber. Why? We still don't know. But 1 month after Amber's murder, Evelyn left town. Her phone went dark, and no one, not even Brandon, has seen her since. Until now, after months of silence, Evelyn Keller surfaced, not in person, but through an encrypted file uploaded anonymously to a secure Dropbox used by investigative journalists. Inside the folder, a digital journal, a file labeled "Do Not Play in Court," and one chilling audio recording named simply, "He told me everything." This wasn't just a warning. It was a confession. If you're hearing this, I'm either gone or done hiding. I stayed quiet for too long. I believed him. I defended him. But then I found the phones. I saw the photos. And I knew Brandon didn't just cheat. He used these women, controlled them, and when they became inconvenient, he erased them. She continues. Amber wasn't supposed to die. He told me that. He said Ashley was unstable, and that if things went wrong, she'd handle it. But then Amber ended up dead, and he looked me in the eye and said, "It's done now." That's when I ran. Then, Evelyn drops a bombshell. She says Brandon once confessed, during what she described as a moment of God-fearing honesty, that he had to make Naomi quiet in 2017 because she knew too much about Savannah, and that Ashley would do anything for him if it meant he'd finally choose her over Amber. Evelyn's journal, submitted through a legal intermediary, outlined a timeline from 2016 to 2024. She documents Brandon's growing obsession with secrecy, his late-night visits to the Restoration Farm, and how he used his church authority to manipulate leadership boards into funding private projects. But she also detailed his breakdowns, his paranoia, and his fear that Ashley would turn on him. In one entry, Evelyn wrote, Ashley was texting him nonstop the night before Amber died. She told him she was done being second place. He told her, then make her go away. Was that literal or emotional manipulation? That's what the court would now have to decide. On the 7th day of Ashley Carson's trial, Evelyn's recording was submitted by the defense, but denied admission by the judge, citing lack of direct authentication. But something unexpected happened. Ashley Carson's demeanor changed. Up until then, she had remained calm, often emotionless. But during Evelyn's recording, though the jury didn't hear it, Ashley reportedly panicked in court. She cried, trembled, refused to look at Brandon, seated in the gallery. Then, her attorney made a stunning announcement. Ashley would take the stand. Against her legal team's advice, she wanted to tell her side. and what she said next left the courtroom in stunned silence. He told me she wanted to die. He said I'd just be helping her go. And I loved him. I didn't want her dead, but I thought it would bring peace. He promised me that if she was gone, we'd be free. Was it confession or a manipulated woman cracking under guilt? The prosecution looked shaken. Brandon Keller walked out of the courtroom, and as the court recessed, something happened outside that none of us saw coming. For 48 hours, Brandon Keller was considered a fugitive. Police feared he might have fled the country or ended his own life. But on the morning of March 28th, hikers in rural Tennessee reported seeing a man near the edge of the House of Restoration compound, dirty, barefoot, and disoriented. When authorities arrived, Brandon was gone, but in a shed near the property's perimeter, they found a duffel bag. Inside, $17,000 in cash, a burner phone, and a folder labeled Cleansing Plan with the names of 4 women: Amber, Naomi, Danielle, Layla. Using court-ordered access, police re-entered the House of Restoration with a search warrant in a locked-up room of the main house. Hidden behind a false wall, they found Layla Harmon, alive, malnourished, and terrified. Layla had been living in isolation for nearly 8 years, cut off from the world, told by religious elders that the outside world was evil and that she was spiritually broken. She said Brandon visited her once a month, never spoke much, just stared at her, prayed, and left. She hadn't seen a phone, a mirror, or sunlight in over a year. When officers asked her if she knew Amber Carson, she whispered. He showed me her photo, said she was the last one. With Layla safe and speaking to authorities, the case against Brandon Keller went from conspiracy to cold-blooded premeditation. Evelyn Keller came forward in person, offering full testimony in exchange for immunity. She revealed Brandon had been recording conversations with Ashley and Amber for months, documenting their growing tension. In one of the final recordings, just 2 days before Amber's death, Brandon told Ashley, "She's in the way. If she's gone, God's plan can finally start." Ashley, now on trial for second-degree murder, changed her plea to guilty. She told the court, "I thought I was saving her soul, but I was only saving his secrets." She was sentenced to 24 years without parole. Brandon Keller was finally spotted 12 days later, walking alone down a desolate back road in Kentucky. When police approached, he didn't run. He didn't speak. He just dropped to his knees and said, "It's done." The sisters were always going to turn on each other. He is now awaiting trial on charges including sexual abuse, conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, unlawful imprisonment, and accessory to multiple deaths. Naomi Ellis's case has officially been reopened as a homicide. Amber Carson was just 27 years old, a woman caught between love, lies, and a sister she trusted more than anyone. Her death wasn't just a tragedy. It was a culmination of a master manipulator's grip on an entire circle of lives. But in the end, the truth came out. Ashley spoke. Evelyn ran. Layla survived. And Brandon will finally face what he feared most. Judgment, not from God, but from the women he tried to erase. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into a case that proves love, faith, and family can become deadly when power falls into the wrong hands. What are your thoughts on this case? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay updated with more stories, where each case isn't just about crime, but also offers a lesson for life.